Good evening and welcome to the Magpie Circle, an unbeaten start to the EFL League Two season. 2 wins, 2 draws. First away win on the board at Swindon. We'll be discussing that with Mark Stallard. Some topics tonight. We've delved into the FA EFL concussion protocol. I spent the best part of an hour of my life this afternoon trying to work it out. Top and bottom is that under the enhanced FA care protocol for concussion, Alessandra can be available for Saturday. I have spoken with the club and there is due to be an announcement on his availability by the manager, Stuart Maynard, at his presser later this week. We'll go into some more detail on that. And if he's available, would you be keeping faith with David McGoldrick? I can see Stell rolling his eyeballs, a striker that gets 2 worldies, and the fact we should even be discussing whether he should retain his place in the starting lineup. Jatta for you, McGoldrick for you, maybe try and accommodate both of them against Accrington on Saturday. Full availability with our senior international call-ups. No players are heading off, or no senior players are heading off. Spoke with the club again today. Jody Jones will not be playing for Malta, so he will be available this weekend. So at the minute, everything in the garden is rosy, Stell.
Well, that's it. Yeah, back-to-back wins. It's amazing what them 2 wins do. You know, make them 2 draws at the start of the season in the league look a heck of a lot better, don't they? And we're on that magical sort of 2 points a game. Very early days, obviously, but 8 points from the first 4. Can't complain at that. Not been beat. Still things to work on, of course. But a grafting, backs to the wall victory on the road. That seems like a long time since we've said that for a notch. You know, that sort of victory, the manner of it, the way they played, the way the game unfolded. They showed some real character, some quality. Obviously, David McGoldrick, we will speak about plenty, I'm sure. But yeah, a real sort of a pleasing win, even though it wasn't the sort of performance that we've sort of come to expect from Notts. I thought Swindon were very good, massively improved from last season when we played them. And yeah, sort of a reversal of the scoreline, wasn't it, as well? But, you know, they'll feel hard done to. But, you know, it shows sometimes you've got to win ugly. And you know, that was a case in point at the weekend.
Yeah, where are all my friendly, matey online content creators who say it's all about performance and not about results? Hey, I've seen no mention of performance in the last 72 hours. Everything about result, and that's how it should be. Right, let's get some thoughts from our flock. Mark Bradley, Spotter's Badge, first on the show at 6:35. There you go, 25 minutes ahead of kickoff. Happy with all the players brought in. Abbott looks great. A young player. Also happy not to see anyone go before the window closed. All looking very positive for the season so far. We did say, Mark, me and Stell, that they are 2 kind of, or among our crown jewels, 2 of our crown jewels, Jones and Crowley, wouldn't be going anywhere. And indeed, that was the case. There was interest, but they're both not being sold. They're both staying put. Of course, we also know that both are in the final year of the contract, but our owners, Alexander and Christoph Reitz, clearly want the best possible team to give us the best possible chance of promotion. Evening from Graham Oates, from Ian Hayward, from John Parnham, from Dave Woolley, from Gilly Lavis. John Parnham, if we could somehow accommodate both Didsey and Jatta, we would not have to worry about a lack of goals, but I'm sure that Stuart knows best. Shane Walker, evening all, looking forward to this one as I am travelling up for the first 3 p.m. home game of the season from the South Coast. Let's hope it's a good one. Evening from Paul Huskisson and also from Michael Fletcher. Gilly Lavis says, I'm not sure if Didsey has the legs and mental side of 90 minutes every week. Showed at the end of last season, I think. We need to manage his minutes, but don't get me wrong, he's a big player on and off the pitch. I'd like to see 2 up fronts, as David Dawes, or I'm sure we'll be debating that with Stell as well. Richard Hawksworth, smash and grab it may have been, but quality one-on-one defending in the box and exceptional performance moments from the keeper and 2 moments of quality from your centre forward equals away wins. Friend of the show, Joe Cotty. Evening, everyone. Great match on Saturday. Me and Dad made the trip up from Dorset. John Parnham, Didsy said he has never been fitter. Give him a chance at the beginning of the season and see what he can do. I want to see Kedwin play down the middle. He's clearly not a winger, says Jilly. Greetings, my friend Dimitri from Montenegro. I think he's had about 3 bottles of Jack Daniels after that one. We won at the weekend as champion Juventus with pure individual class. This is how titles are won. Are you still on the whiskey or is it the Jack Daniels, Dimitri? Evening all from Anthony McLean, Ian Haywood, Lippy Jane, and Martin Shipley. Great result at the weekend. Winning is winning, however it's achieved. And hello from Karen Knight, from Stephen Newton, Paul Willits, Kenneth Pointer, Andy Esom, and I'll finish on AD Clark. Evening all. Great that we kept Jody Jones and Dan Crowley, plus a great result winning when we probably didn't deserve to. P.S. What's happened with Chloe? Did she leave in the transfer window? No, she didn't. No, Chloe will be on soon. I think Swindon was the first game she's missed, actually. But no, Chloe will be back very soon. Don't worry, AD. Right, Stel, let's dive first. David McGoldrick. Strikers Union, you score 2 goals like that. Should you not be guaranteed a place in the starting lineup in the next game?
Yes. Simple answer. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it almost is as straightforward as that. You know, you do the business like he did on Saturday. You know, come out with 2 fantastic finishes, just moments of quality in a performance that was more about grit and determination than real quality. We were poor with the ball, but we didn't create problems with the ball. Swindon, I'd say, I thought they were very good, pressed very well, didn't allow us time and space. Jody was well marshalled by Sobowali, you know, all throughout the game, or when they switched him over to Jody's side. And you know, Dan Crowley was in that deeper position. We never really kept the ball long enough to build up and get him too far forward, except to the sort of final 20-25 minutes of the first half. So David McGoldrick for me was you know, the moments of quality, but that's what you've got with David. We spoke about this briefly when we spoke about him before. You know, he'll have been frustrated being on the bench early on in the season. You know, properly frustrated. You know, no matter what he says or comes out and say he's gonna you know, play the professional, and give the right answer and say the right things. But then it's always about, are you ready when your chance comes? And absolutely, he got a chance on Saturday. You know, maybe not one that he'd been expecting too much, but he got it, and boy, did he take it. And for me, yeah, that's now given Stuart Maynard a bit of a headache, not just Jatta with his concussion, but it gives him a headache as to go, right, what do I do now? You'd be brave come foolhardy to leave David McGoldrick out after them 2 goals. But if Jatta's fit and available, which we hope and assume he will be, then do you bring him straight back in? Do you play the 2? Do you move Didsy back into that sort of slightly withdrawn left-hand side role? Or do you play a front 2 that we haven't seen so far, that ironically Swindon played on Saturday and seemed to cause us a few problems? So, yeah, they're the good headaches. When you've got strikers scoring goals, we've got 4 players on 2 league goals already this season. So, you know, Didsy's started 1 game, he's got 2 goals. I don't think you can leave that out, can you?
Right. Okay. So you're on the record. He definitely should start. And you've kind of gone through the options. You're manager for a bit now. Of all the people on this show tonight, you're the only ex-pro, although I know a few of the lads do listen. So assuming you've committed to playing him, where would you play him?
Right, just because you've lumped it on me and I'm now the manager picking it. If it was me, he stays in the team. You keep the same shape. I think you keep the same shape, and probably Jatta has to spend time on the bench. Not spend time, but sit on the bench for the start for Saturday and go, well, this is the competition for places that we've got. You know, if you're not available through no fault of his own, you know, but if you're not available, somebody comes in and plays well, you keep the shirt. I always like that mantra of if you come in and do well, you keep the shirt. because that keeps everybody on their toes. It keep, you know, I think you cause more issues by you come in, you do well. Now I'm going to revert back to what we had before because, you know, Jata's done nothing wrong, which he hasn't. But I'm a believer in if you get a chance and you take it, to then be took out of the team, that can be an issue, can be problems. Look, you could play both. You know, you could absolutely, you know, still play the back three and Jody and Cerula or Kellen Gordon wide, and play almost like Swindon played, which was a sort of 5-3-2 on Saturday, and then that caused problems. They had Smith and Glatzel up front in the first half, and they did really well with the press. That they sort of snuffed us out for certainly first 20 minutes or so, and that's where they got their goal from: pressing, winning the ball in our half, and a good finish from Kilkenny, you know, put them ahead. So there's plenty of options, but I think David McGoldrick, you know, God help you trying to explain to him when you don't pick him for the next game why he's not playing. But you know, I think you've got to play him, and for Jata, if he's had concussion, which he has, then you go, well, you know, if you well enough, you're on the bench and you might come on for half an hour at the end, or you might come on alongside Didsey, you might come on in place of Didsey, see how the game goes. But I think you retain the shirt if you score two.
And I probably wouldn't disagree with your words you said there, Stel, but we'll get some more. I'll read some more comments out. But I do detect these days there's a slight in the Jurassic era. That was it, wasn't it? You win, score, play well. It's the same team. But the more modern approach tends to be one of rotation, tends to be one of how are we going to line up against the opposition. You know, when we had Stuart Maynard on the show, and I do think back to that Newport game when we lined up with a 4. We won, and we won well. And I think it was Lou Macari's grandson, even, who was then left out the following. And I think a few of us of a certain age will be a little surprised by that, given he's played well. But I think in the more modern era, it's not automatically a shoo-in. I think this conversation 10, 20 years ago, it's not even a conversation. It's not even a conversation. Now, I think it'll be quite interesting. A few more comments. Evening from John Gregory and Pythagorean. Chambo, Gateshead Magpie here. Really impressed with the start so far. Grinding out results while not playing well is a great sign. Evening, says Matt Arnold. First time been able to watch live for a little while now. Ian Haywood, here's a few thoughts. Start AJ on the bench to mix it up. Bring him on second half. Adrian Dexter. We've got to get Kedwin Scott up to speed. A bit of confidence and he will fly. Chris B. Jata back up top for me and Didsey back on the bench. There we go. Counter argument. Thought part of the struggle on Saturday was due to Jata missing and a lack of presence up front. I hope David and his brothers aren't watching this at the minute. Didsey to start, says Graham Oates. Evening, folks, says James Moore. Gilly Lavis. I'd also like to see Giovanni Brown get minutes. Hope he does well. We'll come on to that one in a moment or two. Joseph Spinks, AJ and Didsey to start for me. Graham Oates, Didsey to start. Talk about a smash and grab, says James Moore. Thanks to Bass for keeping us in it and Didsey for the 2 real quality strikes. Jack Hobbs, it's so nice having some proper defenders and a proper confident keeper. Mob Caravan Man, that's a new one. Mobile Caravan Man. Aren't all caravans mobile? Evening all. AJ to start for me. Better with the press. Dale Pikett. Mansfield offered a club record 600 grand in the last hour of the transfer window after they sold Davis Keeler Dunn to Barnsley. A good story, Dale. Sorry, they didn't. Duncan Comrie, early signs are that we're more than capable of holding our own against the best in this division due to the additions that have been brought in. I'm hopeful of an exciting season. What else have we got? Evening from Newark from Adam Kent. I'm struggling to remember, says James Moore, when the last time was that we were the lesser team, wouldn't say worse, and come away with the win. To which Chris B replies, the playoff final. You're not wrong. Stel, right? Let's okay. We've spoken a bit about David McGoldrick. Let's just tidy up as best we can the situation with Alassane Jatta. Right. So there was some talk that he might even be called up by Gambia, and there was some talk, albeit from his agent, that he'd turned them down. Just so you know, it would have been good for air miles. Gambia are playing the Comoros Islands, which I'm sure all our flock and you know where they are. It's a volcanic archipelago off the southern tip of Africa near Madagascar. I'm sure you knew that.
You took the words out of my mouth, Paul.
But he would have been playing there Wednesday this week. But obviously he's not. So I think we all got caught out a little bit on Saturday. Jatta's out, right? Concussion protocol. So I think we've all been scrambling around trying to read up on concussion protocols. I think Mr. Mottershead sent me a text saying it's 21 days out. That's kind of the grassroots level. So concussion protocols have been brought in by various FAs in response to, down the years, players getting knocked out, going back on the pitch in a daze or whatever, and carrying on as normal. We'll ask whether you ever got knocked out, Stell, in a minute. So Jatta suffered a concussion. There's what's called an enhanced care protocol, as I'm sure you'd be aware. And that 21 days can be accelerated to either 12 days or 7 days before you play again after the incident. So I've spoken a little bit with the club today. They're planning to continue to monitor Alassane, and Stuart is due to kind of clarify the situation later this week. My interpretation of the enhanced care protocol is that anywhere between 7 and 12 days after the concussion, the player is available, subject to passing a variety of medical tests. And the club have said to me today that clearly they do not want to jeopardise Alassane's recovery. They continue to monitor the progress. And I think the feeling is that if he gets through the latest round of tests that are required, then he is capable of playing on Saturday. Doesn't mean he will, but he is available to play. All a far cry from years ago, still, when probably centre halves laid the nut on you and your head, you got pushed into the crossbar or the post or whatever, and magic sponge 2 minutes later, you're wheeled back on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a little bit different back in the day, that's for sure. I've got the beak to prove it, as you can see. Yeah, look, I think that's it. I think you're spot on there with your interpretation of it. I think it basically comes down to, after them 7 days, is he still suffering symptoms? Are there still signs that he's not right, or is he okay? And they'll do the tests, and he'll be allowed to play once he passes them tests. So. Yes, it's not black and white. There's no sort of, it's 7 days, it's 2 weeks, it's 21 days. It is how you go on, and obviously each case is different, in that sort of respect. So yeah, they're doing the right thing. They've got to make sure he's right. You don't want to force him back if he's suffering any after effects. As you say, things have moved on, and not always for the better, but obviously things like this are always for the better. You don't want to take chances with any head injuries.
What do you take? I think it was Chris, one of our regular shows, who was making a point that I think the inference was Jatta, more of a press, more athletic, more powerful, helps the overall team pattern compared to a striker that basically slotted in 2 worldies.
Yeah, and I think he's right in saying that. I think that's the reason Jatta started the season. I think that's the reason that Jatta and Kedwin Scott were preferred in the first couple of games. I think it was to try and set that press off. With losing Macca, I think that was as big a focus for Stuart Maynard as sort of anything else as well, to make sure, and he's spoken about it post-match, going and winning the ball back. As soon as we lose the ball, go and win it back within 4 or 5 seconds, go and get it back as soon as possible. Now, obviously, when you're 36, despite all the quality David McGoldrick's got and the fitness levels he's still got, other players are preferred to, maybe because of them elements of the game. So all you can do is wait your time. And as David McGoldrick has proved, when you get your chance, you have to take it. Now, you can't make anybody close down if that's not their game. They can work hard, and David McGoldrick does do. But what you've got to have is them bits of quality. And David McGoldrick was a match winner for us on Saturday. Yes, everybody played their part. It was, although it wasn't a sparkling in possession performance, it was a real gritty, backs to the wall, everyone giving everything they can. In possession, we were probably only a 5 or 6 out of 10. Out of possession, we were 8 and 9s. So that was, good from that respect. But again, it's can you drop David McGoldrick after scoring them 2 goals? I'd be amazed. And for all his age and experience, you drop him after that, and he's not going to be a happy bunny. I'll tell you that for certain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he doesn't not start. My gut will be with you that Jatta on the bench, and clearly you've got the whole issue around the concussion. And I'm not quite sure how much quality training time he's been able to have, because I think as part of that recuperation and your 7 days, 9 days, 12 days, if you just Google FA concussion document, you can download the PDF and then you can all read it to your heart's content. But the focus on the enhanced care protocol section, because that's the one that applies to professional football clubs, and it will talk there about you can do light jogging, you can do non-contact training, then you can do contact training. So it may well be he's lost a little bit of work on the training ground. And look, gut feel, maybe Alessandro on the bench on Saturday, but we shall see. Didsey has to start, says Joe Crabtree. He's been patient and impressed when called upon. Jatta will be champing at the bit to do the same when he gets his chance again. It's a win-win for both. The style of the opponent / the game will determine who plays, says Adrian Dexter. Gary Phillips, you can't drop Didsey after a performance like that. What does it say to anyone else who plays well? Michael Fletcher, we're in a better situation this season with the bigger squad, so hopefully a consistently good campaign. Rich Hawksworth, Alex Bass, outstanding so far this season. Let's not let that go under the radar. Andy Esom, Gambia follow up the Comoros game on Sunday at home to Tunisia. That's quite right, Andy. I would imagine Tunisia are pretty decent, aren't they? James Moore, that game was one we'd have lost heavily last season. One bad back pass, etc., and we would have folded. A lot of focus on David McGoldrick on Saturday, Stal, picking up on that point from one of our flock there. The contribution of Alex Bass, and I think listening back to your BBC radio interview with Stuart when I got back home, he mentioned very early on Alex Bass and his excellent handling, because they seemed to dip a lot of balls in, didn't they, skidding off the turf, and his handling didn't spill one, did he?
No, absolutely. It was almost a throwback, and I mentioned this on the commentary. I mean, credit to the defending as a team.
Yeah.
Swindon, for all the smash and grab that we said, and quite rightly, they will wonder how they've not got something out of the game. For all the pressure, for all the possession that they had, they didn't miss any clear-cut opportunities. There were no golden opportunities that they missed, or the keeper's made a worldie or whatever. Something he's not got every right to make a save. I think there was one in the second half from the inside left channel. Alex Bass gets to his left, get a real good hand on it, turns it out for a corner. The others, were just really good handling from dipping dangerous balls that bounce, 5 yards out. Nightmares for goalkeepers. And again, you talk about the modern game, and you're so used nowadays to seeing keepers playing patike, parrying it out, trying to parry it away, not taking a chance of carrying it. Well, Alex Bass made sure he got hold of it, and because he got hold of it, it meant there was no rebounds, no potential follow-ups, no potential tap-ins for Swindon strikers, on the march, on the prowl, if you like. So from that aspect of it was brilliant, and he made 3 or 4 really good saves. I'm not going to over egg it and say they were world class saves, but really efficient, really good saves. Didn't allow a chance. He caught every cross that he went for, and he's not put a foot wrong. I think he's what you can say so far in the 4 games. Very impressive. Quietly going about his business, just doing it, and that's what you want in a keeper. You don't really want to talk about your keeper too much. You just want him to be efficient, come and catch your crosses, make the saves that you should make, and that's the role of a keeper. He's done it to perfection so far.
Yeah, I thought he was quietly very. I think he's a good word there, efficient. And I think in Stuart's interview, he also picked up on something, and he spoke about this was kind of the sort of game that a Stockport would need to come away and win. And I think so many people saw us play against Grimsby, and all the neutrals then think we're going to tear up the league. But for me, the reality is that Stockport, Wrexham, and Mansfield probably had a lot more results like we got against Swindon and not dissimilar performances than, say, 20 Grimsby performances where you've just played such breathtaking football. The whole of the country says, oh, blimey, he's the best this, best that, best that. We're probably going to need 8 or 9 more of those Swindon type results on the road, because the difference between a point, say, and a win is what gets you automatic as opposed to playoffs, and playoffs as opposed to being 14th again.
Yeah, absolutely. We say it. There's one thing we all agree on is that it is about results. At the end of the day, professional sport is all about getting that win. Yes, the performance leads, or if you get the performance right, that should lead to winning more games than you don't. But it's still about the win. And there's not a team alive that throughout time that's always played their A game every single game. It's when you're struggling, when things aren't going. Like I say, the difference between the Grimsby performance and the very next game, Swindon away, in terms of not with the ball, were night and day. Jody getting the ball, but he's got well marshalled. He got away from King early on in the first half, but when they swapped Somawali over, he didn't have anything like the freedom. The lad had the pace to keep up with him quite well, and all of a sudden, Dan Crowley as well. Every little drop of the shoulder, every twist and turn you make is not bought by every player you play against, and so otherwise you sort of get snuffed out of the game a little bit. Not saying they had bad games at all, they didn't, but they weren't obviously as glowingly fantastic as they were against the Grimsby game, where everything seemed to go. Every dummy, every little dip of the shoulder was bought by defenders, and their skill got them past them, and they finished it, and they exploited the gaps and the spaces that they got, and they were wonderful. Saturday was a different game completely. When it wasn't quite clicking, it wasn't as fluent. There were a few sloppy passes first 20 minutes, and Swindon at home, who a much improved team, they were all over knots, not allowing them the time. They'd obviously seen the Grimsby game, done their work. Mark Kennedy seems to be quite a thoughtful sort of head coach, manager, wants to put things in place to stifle the opposition. And I heard his interview sort of after the game, and he was, quite decent in his praise of Notts, despite his team playing well and not getting anything from it. So do not underestimate them games. I said on the radio that in a weird sort of way, that 3 points against Swindon is almost more pleasing than the 3 points against Grimsby, because it's nowhere near it in terms of performance level. But you've had to battle, you've had to scrap, you've had to stay in the game when you go one down and you're under the cosh a little bit. And then all throughout the second half, pretty much, we're under the cosh, being asked questions. Players have to stand up and do what we know was the weak part of the team last season. The weak part. They've had to stand up and they defend, and they've not conceded glaring opportunities. They've been put under plenty of pressure, been asked loads of questions, not been allowed to have, or not been able to get lots of attacking time and possession of the ball in the final third. But they've gone and won the game. They've had the moments of quality when it mattered, and they've kept themselves in the game, not conceded a second, not conceded, after that first goal. And you go, there's a real reward in that. That is 3 points away from home, where, do you know what? We have scrapped and worked, not been too pretty on the eye at times, but we absolutely deserve it because we've hung in and we've given everything that we've possibly got. And that's where you look at all players from Matty Platt, Jacob Beddoe, Lewis Macari, all throughout the team. And you go to them players, Jody Jones and Dan Crowley, who were so good with the ball against Grimsby, but they put a shift in and did the other side of the game on Saturday and were part of that. And they can be just as proud of that as they can the performances that grab the headlines and look great on social media when the clips are on like that. It was a real pleasing result and a gritty, determined performance. And that they're the bits that I think everybody with a Notts then will have said over the last year. That's the question mark. Have we got that? We've got character, of course we have. We've got quality. Have we got that real steel and determination and grittiness when it's not going well? Saturday proved it. Now that's a one-off. They've got to carry that out throughout the season. It's a 46-game season, not just a 4-game season. But real good signs on Saturday. And although the performance level is nowhere near that Grimsby one, they're almost better, if you like.
Some more comments from the flock. James Moore: I like Sam Slocum, but I remarked on Bass's handling. Stone and Slocum both punch and palm the shots away. Looks like we've got a good keeper, says James, and echoing the sentiments that you've just expressed, Stell. Ian Hayward: Bass did make one mistake that led to their goal by passing the ball forwards rather than sideways, as we normally do. James Moore adds: one thing I have noticed, the centre-backs appear to have more confidence in Bass, which is huge for the whole team. Last season's liabilities with the defence and goalkeeper positions is what brought about our demise. Let's just take it away a little bit from performance appraisal from the weekend. Transfer deadline week day last week, in case you missed it. Right, bit of info for you. I think as Stell and I were both firmly of the opinion and understanding, no departures for Dan Crowley and Jody Jones, and that turned out to be the case. There was interest in them, but the club rebuffed all of those approaches. There was also a lot of speculation about bringing another striker in. And the club had brought in Giovanni Brown from Bristol Rovers on a season-long loan. It was kind of the Brown of another, the surname of another from another club that a lot of people were interested in, DeJean Brown, Derby. So the situation with that, I can tell you, is that Notts had made an inquiry for him several weeks ago. Add to that MK Dons, Doncaster, and most of the rest of League Two, who had all also contacted Derby with a view to try and getting him on loan. Derby had wanted to get another striker in themselves before they would entertain allowing him to go on loan. In the end, Derby didn't get in a striker that they wanted, and so hence that's why that loan deal didn't go through. DeJean Brown was on loan at Gateshead last year, and I think got quite a lot of plaudits, and was a player I think that you'd seen, Stell. But we have got another Brown, Giovanni Brown from Bristol. We've also got a young lad, George Abbott from Tottenham. Looking holistically at the squad, Stell, are we in a decent place?
I hope so. I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think it's always difficult. We've said this, transfer deadline day, it's like the domino effect, isn't it? Housing chain. You say about that, DeJean Brown. You think a lot of League One and League Two clubs were in for him, and they wait on Derby getting a striker, and they're probably waiting on the striker they're looking at, his parent club, waiting on their replacement. So look, you're always up against that knock-on effect. In terms of the squad, I was quite surprised they brought in another midfield player, a central sort of midfield player, George Abbott, who, he is versatile, so Stuart Maynard is saying, can play around. So we will see. Again, with all these players, we should wait and see. But I think the squad is in pretty good shape. We wanted a couple of additions, we got them. Most importantly, kept hold of Dan Crowley, kept hold of Jody Jones. So, yeah, between now and the next transfer window in January, injuries will dictate, won't they? Form obviously dictates, but injuries will dictate, is the squad big enough? You can't cover everything. we haven't got a limitless budget. I think with what they've wanted, they've shown good intent, held on to the main assets, obviously after selling Macaulay early in the window, if you like. But that and Aaron Demann's departure probably allowed them, gave them the financial flexibility to keep Dan Crowley and Jody Jones and turn down them deadline day offers, because you imagine, having to scrub around on the last day to try and get replacements for them. Very difficult to do. So, very, very pleased with the business. We would always say, we could have, with a crystal ball, we'd like to know who's going to get injured, if anybody, between now and January. But I think they've got most positions covered. There's sort of at least two people for each position, and decent quality additions as well. So, we'll wait and see what them individuals do in a not shirt. Obviously they've had the different sort of histories before. George Abbott, inexperienced Tottenham youngster, Giovanni Brown, late 20s, isn't he? Plenty of league experience. So, two different sorts of players, but hopefully good additions to the squad, and will strengthen and keep that competition for places high.
Yeah, and I think Giovanni's also got a promotion under his belt at Exeter, which I think is always important if you've got people who have tasted promotion, knows what it takes, stayed the course of the season, scored goals with Exeter, less successful at Bristol. But sometimes these things can go up and down, especially as a striker, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I just need to start recharging this. If you see me disappear, I'll be back in 10
Right,
seconds.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. You're dead right. Depending on the player, you look at me. My career was better at some places than others. Obviously, it can happen. You can fit in at certain clubs. Certain managers, certain styles of play, and you can go somewhere, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen for you. It's one of these things that happen in football that's really almost inexplicable at times. A lot to do with confidence and feeling part of it, feeling wanted. But yeah, sometimes it just doesn't happen. So when you try to explain a career of anybody's, once you get through so many clubs, there's a chance that you've not been a success at all of them. If you are, you're probably at the top end of whatever league you're playing at. You're charging yourself up, or not. So Giovanni Brown, I say, is probably a little bit different to what I expected them to bring in. I think they usually look at younger players, with a bit of value to add. Well, he's got experience and probably will be able to hit the ground running in terms of, he'll know the level, he'll know what it's all about. He's scored goals, so he's not going to be sort of insecure on whether he can do it or not. It's just about, when he gets his chance, will he take it?
Yeah, David McGoldrick was having one of these superchargers as well. These Tesla superchargers, I think, I had a Saturday. On the squad, Andy Esom, a squad of 26 plus pros now. Certain players who have had game time this season already looking less likely to now. Difficult balancing juggling act, keeping all in match trim. Rich Hawksworth says, Stuart now appears to be more flexible reformation than Luke. A 4 again on Saturday. Credit, please, where it is due. James Moore, I know the brothers are men of their word, 100%, but they did say any transfer fees brought in would go towards future transfers. We haven't put the Macca money to use yet. What else have we got? James Moore, I wonder if you had any big for our level bids in. Yeah, I mean, look, I think I tell you one of my things, Stel, and I don't know whether you agree with me on this, is, and the brothers keep, they'll never reveal the size of a transfer fee. Everything is undisclosed. Sometimes I think there is an argument, because what happens is it sparks wild speculation among your fan base. So what somebody says is a significant bid, it's a subjective phrase, significant. Significant could be 100, it could be 1 million. Depending, if you ask our fan base on the Macaulay Langstaff deal, it could be as low as 500,000 and it could be 2 million. And we don't know. Well, I know roughly where it is, and it's a lot nearer the bottom end than the top end. But what if the Football League, as part of like a transparency drive, was to say, we will now publish all transfer fees? The argument by the clubs will be it's sensitive data, but we all speculate so wildly. I think there's an argument, and they do this in Major League Soccer. One of my clients, they even publish injury lists. So you have to have kind of like, you have to publish a player if he's on an injured list ahead of a game. Yeah. Do you think that would help make the situation worse? So, for instance, we would then know the fee for Macaulay Langstaff. Yeah. And in much the same way as if we bought someone, we would know what the fee was.
Yeah, look, from a purely, nosy point of view, yeah, of course you'd like that transfer. We'd all like to know how much money's changing hands and things like that. I don't know as it really changes anything, does it? You've got the squad and the players that you've got, whether you know how much they've actually paid for them or not. Again, you understand the reasons why everything's. You look at deadline day, most of the deals are undisclosed. Because clubs don't want to reveal their hand of. It's almost adding extra pressure on it working. So, like we said about Macca's deal, but this applies pretty much to every deal done, is that the buying club want to be seen to be potentially getting a bargain.
Yeah.
The selling club want to be seen to be making a killing.
Yeah.
And obviously both them two figures, or whatever the figure is, can't tick both boxes. So undisclosed allows both clubs to come away and go, well, we've won. This is a good deal for us, and Millwall go, this is a good deal for them, and Notts go, it's a good deal for us. So there's a certain ambiguity in it, which I absolutely understand why they do it. Would I like to? Yeah, we'd all like to know how much people are playing. But then they could argue, well, it puts extra pressure on the player because they've got a definite figure on the head. Therefore, it put them under scrutiny more because, certain players worth more than another player. So I don't know as if they'll ever bring any rules in like that, any transparency rules on things like that. Like I say, as long as the club, both parties are happy, then I think that's just the way it is. The status quo will remain. But it is, yeah, we'd all like to know. We'd all like to know and pass our judgment whether we think that's a fair price. Would we have sold at that price? But I don't see it happening anytime soon.
No, neither do I. But I do think there is scope that if the league mandated all clubs that a base figure is published, I think it stops sometimes more unscrupulous owners playing games. Because like you say, one will claim that, one will claim one. Well, there is a true figure. There is a true figure. So if you've got the true figure, people can then make their mind up. I've been at clubs where the chairman has wanted to inflate the transfer fee. Wait for this. Because in that way, as the chairman of the club, he has then created a new record incoming transfer fee for the club, i.e. that's the most the club has ever spent, therefore it reflects well on the chairman, even when it wasn't. So
that's it. That's it. That's why it's transfer fees and all these sort of things. They're more about the PR of it than any practicalities. Because like I say, if we knew every transfer fee, nothing changes. The squads are still the same. You just go, oh, he costs that much, and I don't know as if it adds much particularly, but again, it satisfies people's curiosity. Of course, it does. But I'm sure in terms of business sense, the only way I could see it happening is if it became mandated as some part and parcel of like financial fair play rules and things like that. So, but I don't see it. I think, like you say, it's sensitive data, isn't it? Things like that. Yeah, whether it ever comes to fruition, we shall see. But so at the end of the day, the club hopefully are happy with the deals. We'll say about players, you should never sign a contract if you're not happy with it, and same goes for clubs. If you're not happy with the terms of a deal, a negotiation, a transfer, then don't agree to it.
Okay, there's some debate going on about the radio commentaries on BBC. I never actually hear them, so I'm a bit lost on it, but I'm sure Radio Nottingham will be able to clarify the situation as to what channel you are on, etc., etc. Eddie Clark, does Stell feel that this is now Stuart Maynard's team and style of play? What's he noticed is different from previous managers? He mentions things like short corners, long throws, mixing it up. How much more of a Stuart Maynard stamp do you see on this group of players this season compared to when he first came in?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is a lot. It goes with having a summer and having a transfer window and having the ability to wheel and deal and get players out and get players in that that you want as a head coach, as a manager. As much as like a Stuart Maynard stamp on things, like I say, it's evolution rather than revolution. I think he's not totally dissimilar to how Luke Williams set up a team. I think there's a lot of similarities, but there are tweaks. There are specific differences. A specific difference I'll give you that I've seen in the last couple of games certainly is defensive corners. Jody Jones and Dan Crowley are up 10 yards from the halfway line. Leave them up the pitch. That never happened under Luke Williams. It was everybody back in the box. Now, that's just one set piece difference. Now, that every manager has their own little quirks, but there are other little changes, little quirks, little small things. But essentially, the message is the same because it comes from the top down that the football the club want to play, this passing, attacking style of football, free flowing, entertaining. That's still the same. And all coaches go through the same coaching badges, go through the same bit. Yes, they go and put their own personality and stamp on things, but a lot of the sort of basis of it is very similar, and then they tweak. So this is what I would say. It's more Stuart Maynard's tweaks from what he inherited, and I would say this about any manager, until you give them time and a transfer window and the ability to bring in players that they want and to work with, as opposed to being given players. No matter what that group of players are, you want your own tools to work with. Any workman would say that. If you're working with somebody else's tools, it's not quite the same. Bring your own tools in, then you've got no excuses. So I think he has put his stamp on it over the summer, and that's where you would expect a coach to. That's where they earn the corn, on the training ground. The games are just the product of what they do from week to week and what they drill into the players. And so far at the start of this season, I think we'll see the benefits, or we have seen the benefits of that. Now, we hope that goes on. We're not making any snap judgment calls. We're 4 games into the league season. But, the signs look promising. There are tweaks. There are differences there. The way he wants to do things slightly different. Again, I would say not a lot more emphasis on the press, because the press was there and set off by Maka last year. But I think that's something they've really worked on to get the whole team in behind them, and they feel they confidently can with a defence that they feel is solid now. So you can squeeze up a little bit more without playing. There's no signs of that ridiculous high line we saw in games in the National League at times. Yeah. So there's your defensive set line. But whether that's dictated by the manager or the actual players themselves, that's open to interpretation, because the coach might want you to play a high line, and the defenders say, well, hold on a minute, we ain't got the pace to chase back. Not saying this is knots, but then you can come to, okay, right, well, we've got to go into a mid-block or whatever, and you've got to find the right way. This is what happens in a pre-season. This is what happens between a Monday and a Friday. This is what you do on the training ground. What you see on a Saturday is just the end product of that, if players carry it out to how the coach wants it done. But I do see what Stuart Maynard's tried to do. He has made changes, but it's tweaks rather than ripping it all up and starting again.
ZO says there has been a big change in personnel that will take a while to gel fully, but they are all playing for Stuart Maynard, and he is doing different things. Evolution rather than revolution. You're in the presence of radio royalty with puns like that, says James Moore. And the debate continues about how people listen to you through Sky Plus apps. I have no idea, but anyway, I think the club perhaps just needs to have a little look at some of their commentary options and how I know it's all changed around with the Sky deal. 3:00 Saturday, Accrington Stanley. You can't get much more traditional than that, Stel, can you?
Absolutely. It seems like a while as well, doesn't it, for a home game, Meadow Lane, 3:00 on a Saturday. It threw me completely the other week when we played Sunday and Thursday. It was like Christmas week, where when you wander around, you've not got a clue what day of the week it is. That was what I was. I just could not get my head around that week. So yeah, great to be back at Meadow Lane, and like I say, on the back of 2 wins, on the back of sort of 8 points from 4 games, an unbeaten start. What a great opportunity to go and make it 3 wins on the spin. You know, at home, you always fancy Notts, but it'd be a tough test. I know people will look at the results of Accrington so far. They've struggled, only got a couple of points from their first 4 games, but it's a very early stage of the season, very early sample size. So, you know, you've got to take that with a pinch of salt and expect a tough game, but also go into it with confidence that hey, if we can perform, then at home, we back ourselves to beat anybody. So no matter who turns up. So, yeah, a really good chance to keep this forward momentum and make it a really good start to the season.
Do you think it's realistic to expect another kind of Grimsby-style performance and blitz? Or are we going to have to brace ourselves for grinding out quite a few results this year?
But a bit of both, to give a boring answer, but you've always got to grind it out. Teams aren't going to come over and roll over, you know, certainly to Meadow Lane. You know, that game against Grimsby was obviously on Sky, you know, but clubs will be seeing it anyway. And when they come to Meadow Lane, no, you could be up against that. They will, and we've seen it. We saw it in the National League. We saw it throughout last season. Some different teams will adopt a different approach coming to Meadow Lane. But how often have we seen teams that have got very little ambition other than playing on the break, on the counter-attack, and just sticking 10, 11 men behind the ball and going, we're not going to allow any space for a Jody Jones or Dan Crowley to pick us apart. We're not going to allow David McGoldrick to get his ball and get the ball and weave his magic on the edge of the box. You know, we're going to condense it as much as possible. And if that makes for a boring game, then great. We've done our job as the away team. So you're always up against that when you set standards like Notts have. So the challenge there is, can you play your football in spite of what the opposition are trying to do, trying to stifle you? You've got to move the ball quickly. Like, you know, I say there's many different ways, but I say stretching the team, keeping it, being patient, trying to play through the lines at the right time, get on the half turn and get balls into dangerous areas, get to the byline as we see so often, and get them balls into the area and try and get that first goal. First goal against a team that's trying to sit in is massive, because then they have to make a change, and that can create space and opportunity for Notts. So can we expect a similar performance from Notts? Absolutely. Whether it has the same success and the same end product as it did against Grimsby, I'm sure Jody will be floating a miss it cross off the far post. We'd all love to see it, of course, but you know, that doesn't happen week in, week out. But I do expect them to play with the pace and the quality and that attacking intent that we saw against Grimsby. Why wouldn't they? They back-to-back wins. They should be full of confidence and belief and go into that game on the front foot again.
We've spoken about a lot of the offensive options. We've spoken a bit about Alex Bass. Effectively, well, Notts have got basically a completely new back line. Matty Platt, Jacob Beddoe, a lot of steel. Lewis Macari has done very well. I mean, a word on the defence. Words and phrases that weren't necessarily used a great deal last year. Stuart Maynard used that phrase a lot in his interview on Saturday. Resilience. Yeah, we appear to be a lot more resilient. And you look at Platt, and a few people have said to me, the old style centre halves, in the sense that they have the individual battle with the striker, don't they? And the team tries to clear it, but he's there first, nods it, gets dispossesses, and that team, certainly with Grimsby, they couldn't get out, could they? They just couldn't get out.
No, absolutely. Look, the game has changed, obviously, but the fundamentals of it are still the way it always has been. You have battles, individual battles all over the pitch. Probably more so now, clubs are happy, teams are happy to go 1 against 1 defensively and with the ball. You know, they trust their players that they're good enough technically to have the ball in tight areas and look after it. And conversely, defensively, out of possession, they're happy to leave 1 against 1, 2v2 at the back, because they trust their defenders to be good enough to deal with that situation, and the team to work hard enough to get back and make up the extra numbers when need be. So individual ability always has been a massive thing in football, and then it's about the collective. But yeah, as a defence, I think they've shown that they've got the steel and the grit and the defensive doggedness, I would say, along with the ability to play the ball and accept the ball and pass the ball and set things up for us. Room for improvement. There's been obviously a couple of notable sort of lapses, but you're going to get that. It's League Two football. But I think in general terms, the signs are promising, and certainly the first day of the season against Tranmere, who I noticed have only conceded 1 and scored 3, I think, in 4 games. We kept them to next to nothing in terms of chances. And likewise against Swindon on Saturday, they had shots from sort of, I say range, but shots from nothing like a clear-cut opportunity. I remember Harry Smith having a header from about 10 yards out that he put over. Alex Bass made 3 or 4 saves, but I wouldn't call any of them saves you wouldn't expect a keeper to make, But again, exemplary handling, things like that. But when the ball was in the box, more often than not, we got first head on it, first contact to it, or we prevented the opposition having clean contact on it. So the signs are promising. That's it. Again, I'm never one to get too carried away. We've played 4 games this season. So we'll watch it and we'll see, can they do it? As ever is the challenge at League Two. Can you do it again? Can you do it again and again and get a run going, a proper run going, where we're 9, 10, 11 games, where we're, I look at, for promotion, you're looking at 2 points per game. But can we get somewhere near, in terms of goals conceded, 1 goal a game or under? Get it 1 goal a game maximum conceded, and you give yourself a really good chance. You have a look at the stats on goals conceded for promotion. That's where you have to be. Last season, we were up near 2 goals a game conceded. Like we said, that's difficult to manage. It's got to be down around 1 goal a game to give yourself the best opportunity. That's where they are after 4 games. I know, again, small sample size, but that's got to be the target, and that's got to be like internal challenges. I mentioned it to Stuart Maynard. When we sort of spoke with him pre-season, does he set goals and targets in terms of points and things like that for the players in spells? I wonder if he sets things like that for the defenders. Right, we've got to concede less than 46 goals this season, and if we do that, we're 2/3 of the way to having a successful season.
On the subject of stats, Dale Pike at Accrington have conceded 14 in 4 league games so far. Long may that continue into a 5th game. Jim Airy, I think one of the things that will help us at home this year is expanding the size of the pitch. Swindon have a tight pitch, therefore the space seemed limited. That was a point that Stuart picked up on in his post-match interview. James Moore, we don't seem to be afraid of smashing the ball down the field when we're under pressure now. So pleased to see this. This was part of our undoing last season, overplaying in dangerous areas. Joe Cotty agreed. Sometimes it's better to kick the ball into row Z. Right, we're just coming up to the hour. Probably wrap it up for this evening. Thank you, everyone. Stel, thank you as always. You will be in the commentary box, I trust, on Saturday, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I will, in the cramped new commentary box.
Now then,
Jake Garner broke one of the desks, the first one of the season. It's tight in there, and he's one of the skinniest ones of us, and he broke the desk. So, how long they all last, we'll wait and see. But, I will be there Saturday, looking forward to it. And, again, a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff seems like a novelty.
Is it Adam or Dave in situ with you?
It's Dave, Dave this weekend. So I think Adam's next game is going to be Burton in the trophy, the FL trophy. So it'll be Dave for the next couple of games.
Excellent. Well, I hope, because 1 or 2 people have been worried that they can't hear you crystal clear, including Lippy Jane. Well, hopefully it all gets sorted for Saturday. Stel, as always, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure, no problem.
And we shall be back next Monday. We're back into a run of Monday nights now. So next week, 7 o'clock Monday. Thank you all tonight. I think I'm just looking on my little numbers chart. Nearly 500 people at any one time watching the show tonight. So thank you very much for that. I always forget, but if you wanted to click the little red subscribe button, it means you can find out more about us and in terms of our broadcast times and other things. Thank you so much for everyone, and we'll be back next Monday. Good night.
Cheers.